and finally you're here in Australia. So we've got you on the podcast, and it's actually a great pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Australia has become my second home. It's my 5th time already.
5th time.
Every time is a month. I've done it in summer, winter, and now it has become a tradition, like coming in June and November. So experiencing Australia or Sydney more specifically in winter and summer.
What is it about Australia that captures you, or what's that? What's the actual?
It's more the Lebanese in Australia than Australia itself. I love this country, definitely one of the most beautiful in the world, one of the biggest in the world, and most diverse, I would say, with 150 more nationalities living here. But the Lebanese in Australia are what brings me back. Their love, their attention, their belief, their attention to details and preservation of traditions is what makes me want to come back to them, connect with them, reconnect with them, I would say. And learning from their stories, first, second, or third generation, and how can we reconnect Lebanon to them and them to Lebanon. So with all I've done in Lebanon, my second part of the mission, I would say, we'll talk about that in a bit, is not only showing the world Lebanon, but showing the Lebanese around the world to Lebanon, and to themselves all around the world. And how can we know each other more, connect with each other more? So you go to a restaurant not knowing who's the owner, and then you discover he's Lebanese. So why not put him on my YouTube or on my social media so Lebanese know of each other and work with each other more.
That's beautiful. And is it Sydney mainly, or?
I've been to a couple cities, I would say, Adelaide, Brisbane, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth for now, and the Gold Coast briefly. And it's all depends on the time. So whenever I plan my trip, it starts by, okay, I have a month this time, it's going to be cool, I would definitely tour around. 25 days in the making, and say, how these 25 days passed. I'm still only in Sydney and not having a minute to breathe. So a month in Australia is nothing. So this is why 2 months a year I find, again, nothing, and I would need more and more and more, and hopefully continuing to do that as much as I can.
And talking about the Lebanese in Australia, my wife's from Lebanon, and I've been there multiple times. Sometimes she says to me, the Lebanese here are more Lebanese than in Lebanon. Do you see that sometimes?
Lebanese in Lebanon have evolved. Lebanese in Australia have evolved differently, I would say. So the Lebanese in Australia have kept their traditions and their promises to Lebanon the day they left. And because it's a far land from Lebanon, so you still remember Lebanon in your own way, eating food from Lebanon, praying like in Lebanon, connecting like in Lebanon. So Lebanese in Australia have evolved with the Australian mentality a bit, while preserving the Lebanon they know when they left. That can be 10, 20, 30, 40, or 100 years back. Lebanese in Lebanon still live in Lebanon and have evolved accordingly to what Lebanon is. So when Lebanese in Lebanon and Lebanese in Australia or wherever in the world reconnect one day, the Lebanese would say, if anta ajnabi, so you have changed you look Australian, and the Australian would look at the Lebanese and say, I cannot live with you anymore, you have changed as well. Doesn't mean one of the two is wrong. Life is evolving. So the Lebanese in Australia need to understand that Lebanon is not the Lebanon they left in the 1950s. And the Lebanese in Lebanon need to know that the Lebanese in Australia have a different mentality and have changed, because the country has rules. The way they live is different. Family is different. Home help is different. Sunday gathering is different. Everything is different. So, but together we make what Lebanon or Lebanese all around the world.
I mean, saying about Lebanese, and you've been asked this 1,000 times, but just for the ones who don't know, no garlic and no onions. How can you be Lebanese with no garlic and no onions?
I can be, believe me, more Lebanese than many of them, considering that food without garlic, which I do not eat, you would know more, you would have the attention to all the other ingredients differently. You would enjoy za'atar, you would enjoy sumac, you would enjoy salt, spiciness, kamoon, and everything in between. I cannot eat garlic. I'm not asking people not to eat garlic, but garlic has to be used in a very subtle, simple way, like any other spice, to add flavor and not cover on the rest. When people say, I eat a shawarma garlic extra or more garlic or loaded with garlic, what are you eating?
Taste the shawarma, you're going to taste
you won't even taste the chicken without noticing all the other ingredients. So garlic has been used in our culture, allow me to say it wrongly, in very big concentration when it needs to be added as is, as like other things, in a very subtle and simple way. So I do not eat garlic. This is I'm allergic to it, so I'm not asking people not to. And I cannot eat raw onions, which have the same effect. I would handle smoothly, softly, very thinly cut cooked onions. This is why I eat sambusik and kibbeh.
Great to hear, because people ask that question all the time. Anthony Rahayel. Anthony is St. Anthony.
It's St. Anthony, definitely.
Okay, so you're Lebanese Maronite, is it?
I'm not a Maronite.
Oh, you're not Maronite?
People might have thought I'm a Maronite because I've went to Wadi Nubin many times, and because I have done Mishwar bil Wadi, which is.
So I've seen the videos about that. Yeah,
28th episode already.
Wow.
It started in Wadi Nubin, where the Maronite have lived for more than 400 years. I believe in the Maronite part of Lebanon, or the importance of Maronites in Lebanon. I was not brought up as a Maronite.
Okay.
We are a small family from Ashrafi, Latin.
Okay.
So
you follow Latin, right?
Yes, I have been.
Okay. Well,
I lived all my life as a Latin. I got married as a Latin. Our main church in Beirut is called Saint Louis, St. Louis.
Is that in downtown Beirut?
Yes, it is.
I think I've visited it.
Yes, it is. Very small community of between 12,000 to 24,000, depending if you want to consider all the diplomats of Lebanon, which are European diplomats of Lebanon, which are Latin. But I connected with the Maronites, how they lived, how they protected Lebanon, how they live in Lebanon, how this land, how they live around the land, how they have built the land, the churches, all the cathedrals we have, all the convents we have, etc. And I went on that journey discovering the origin and history of the Maronite with the help of Eli, definitely, Eli Ahwash on my show, and Mark Beiruti covering all the other parts of nature and agriculture. And
Mark Beiruti, actually, my wife went to university. He was one of her lecturers.
Okay.
And she was telling me about his how good he was. So
he's so good. He knows his stuff. He understands his stuff. So anyway, we started this program called Mishwar bil Wadi, where it started in the Wadi Nubin. It started on discovering Wadi Nubin and looking at the history of it and why Wadi Nubin and not other valleys. And it evolved to covering all of Lebanon. All of Lebanon we consider as Wadi, as a valley, the valley of Lebanon in general. And we went from one village to the other, one village to the other, one village to the other. And ongoing, we're now at our 28th episode, and ongoing 13 episodes per season, published on my YouTube and MTV Lebanon, the national television.
So Wadi Nubin, you obviously knew about it from before. Everybody's heard of Wadi Nubin. What was the most attractive thing that attracted you to Wadi Nubin?
The most attractive thing is thinking of Nubin as a place where people have lived for not a year or two, but 400. Thinking of how did they live? How did they connect? How did they got married? How the generations continued? How did they eat? Which animals did they live with? How did they manage to live at a certain elevation that starts around 1,000 all the way up to 2,200? Cold winters, hot summers, and lived all of there with all their faith. And this is very important. So what made them live all these years is definitely faith.
Faith, yeah.
So looking at that faith, how did they build? How did they connected with the rocks, with the plants, with everything in between? How the traditions and many of the traditions of Lebanon started there. Probably Kibbeneye and probably Burghol and probably the wheat and probably the little
so
songs.
It's like the faith and the culture together.
Exactly.
Originated from the Wadi.
And this is probably the things you can see or feel. And then more feel than see. And then what you can see is they lived in a cave. How did they build it? They have built convent in caves at elevations that we today cannot walk to or reach. They have lived as communities of 100, 200, or maybe 300 in places that one person cannot reach. So how did they go in and out? If you look at how it is built and how did it last, you would say, okay, wait, there is nothing else than faith that would have made it happen for so long. You cannot but be amazed. Whatever your religion is, the minute you walk into Wadi Nubin, walking not as walking in a forest, walking with the perception of I want to understand how people lived here, you would say, okay, wait, it's definitely a miracle. There is something way beyond what a normal human being of our era can do.
Especially like being an Australian here, knowing that Australia is 230, 240 years You know, these guys in Wadi Anubin, where I can imagine a couple hundred years ago how Australia was. So imagine 400 years ago in the Wadi, and like you said, how they lived and how they ate and how they survived. It's just it's unbelievable, isn't it?
You had people coming from above. You had people or people fighting you coming from above or coming from below, and you had to find your water, your food, protect your children, bring people up, bring more children up or whatever. So thinking of how did they do it, and then winters back then were 1 meter, 2 or 3 meters of snow. It was not that winter of today.
That's right.
If you think of every single heated, how did they light fire? How did they cook meat? How did they boil burghul? How did they harvest their vegetables? Fruits or not, olives or not, olive oil. If you come just to look at your life today and say, how can they do that 400 years back? It is something magical.
100%. And even the Valley of the Saints, you see the patriarch Dwayhe.
Mm-hmm.
He's still intact, his body.
Yep.
And obviously I think this year they said he's going to they're making him a saint.
Hopefully.
Inshallah, yeah. I think it's October this year or September.
Not sure.
And then there's other saints that have lived there. And like you said, this is going back hundreds of years. And I've walked down the valley, you know, in 2019. And I thought to myself, I'm struggling just to walk down this valley. So imagine these guys going out 300-400 years ago to get their food, or like you said, during the war, things like that. So it's out of this world seeing Wadi Anubin. It's amazing, isn't it?
Indeed. So going from there, so your 2019 walk, how about you tell me, how did you connect with Wadi Anubin, or how did you connect with your original Lebanese faith, considering that you're born in Australia? So quick rewind. Who are you? Where are you from?
Okay.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
For my viewers to know.
Yeah.
And how did you reconnect with your origins?
Okay. Well, Wadi Anubin was 2019, but back in 2015, prior to 2016, I was born in Sydney, Maronite family, went to church, but I was very far away from God. I got caught up into gambling, partying, girls, all the simple things that everyone else does, but I got very deep. Okay. I gambled for 20 years. I lost everything. So I hit rock bottom. When I hit rock bottom, I thought to myself, where am I going? I got to the point where I was suicidal. And at the last minute, I thought, you know what? Maybe there is a God. Let me see if there is a God. And that's when I turned to God and changed my life around. Once I changed my life around, somebody actually reached out to me from overseas. They were building a church called Veronica Giuliani in Saibi in Lebanon. Somebody sent me a video, and I watched this video, and I was just in tears, crying, thinking, wow, I want to be part of this journey. I want to be part of helping this church build. I didn't have any money. So what I did was, thought, okay, maybe I'll see if I can raise some money on Facebook. I gave up drinking, I gave up partying. It was the Siam. So I started fasting. And in that 40 days, we managed to bring hundreds and hundreds of people to church. And we raised $700,000, and we helped build the church in Lebanon, Veronica Giuliani. At that time, I met a priest that was here from Lebanon named Abu Natanios. And he changed my life. He helped me. And they've now building a new dar in Dar al-Ahmar, okay, called Bat Maroon. And that started in 2019. So when I went to Lebanon to visit in 2019, we went for a walk in the valley with Abu Natanios and a group of about 20, 30 Australians. And we went down the valley, and they were explaining to us the history of Wadi Anubin. And there was a monk that was from Colombia, Darius Escobar. We went and visited him. Seeing that this Colombian monk living in Wadi Anubin, that blew my mind. I was like, wow. So just seeing the history of the Maronite history in Lebanon, going back to my roots, changed the way I think. So fast forward to 2020, unfortunately, when the Beirut blast happened, that was a big impact to a lot of Lebanese in Australia, and it really hurt me because I had been to Lebanon multiple times. So also at that time, I felt that I had to help my Lebanese brothers and sisters. So the charity I'm involved here in Australia called QMHR, we did a fundraiser just on Facebook, and we managed to raise almost $500,000 for the Beirut blast victims. So in 2020, I went back to Lebanon, made sure we were on the ground helping all the poor, all the people affected by the Beirut blast. And the last 5 or 6 years, we've managed to raise over $5 million for the people in Lebanon, the poor in Lebanon. Until now, we still help hundreds of families in Lebanon. And we have this connection. it's not my money. It's a charity money. It's the people from Australia donating, but I'm like the middleman. I'm the connection where I'm going to Lebanon, I'm distributing the funds, I'm finding the families in need, I'm finding who we need to help, I'm reaching out to the people in Australia and building that bridge between the Lebanese in Australia and the Lebanese in Lebanon. So that's, in a nutshell, where my history is with Lebanon.
Wow, that's amazing. From someone who just probably forgot his past, forgot who he's from, what he was, and then back to the origins.
And I feel more Lebanese than the Lebanese sometimes. Like I go to Lebanon and like people ask me, why are you helping here? Why are you doing this for? Why you were living in Australia? Why do you even care? So, but to me, it's history. It's not just my family, or I'm not going and helping my immediate family. I'm helping strangers. I'm going down to British Hamoud, to the areas where not many people in Australia have relatives, you know, and I'm helping people there through the funds of people from Australia. So it's brilliant. It's beautiful.
How do you explain that many Lebanese who are not even born in Lebanon come back to Lebanon just for one visit and reconnect as if they spent all their life in Lebanon?
Well, because it happened to me. So I first time I was born in Australia, the first time I went to Lebanon was I was 21. And my parents bought me, I've got a twin brother, bought us a ticket to Lebanon. I'm like, what do we want to go to Lebanon? We want to go to America. Well, what's Lebanon? What for? They go, we're going to Lebanon. We bought you a ticket. Just come. I said, well, I want to make sure that I can come back earlier. I'm not going for 3 weeks. I went there. On the first week, I was trying to search for a ticket to get back to Australia. I didn't want to be in Lebanon. By the second week, I looked at my brother and said, this place is not bad. It's pretty good. By the third week, I was that in love in Lebanon. I extended to 3 months. And back in those days, if you exceeded 3 months, you had to go to the army. So I came back to Australia just so I wouldn't go back to the army in Lebanon, and I came back the next year. And now I've been 8 times in the last 5 years, since 2019. I've been 8 times to Lebanon. And every time I go, I went once during the pandemic. I was there for 11 months. My wife's from Lebanon. I got married in Lebanon. I got married in Harissa. I proposed in Harissa. So you can see that my smile, my passion for Lebanon, I'm more Lebanese than I am Australian. I am Australian, but I just feel I'm more Lebanese. And there's a lot of Lebanese in Australia that are feeling that. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Beautiful to hear. And today you're living your Maronite life completely, and then you decided to create this podcast. Why
Yes.
podcast?
Okay, so I've been on social media for about 7-8 years, defending Christianity, anything that comes up, the massacres in Nigeria, the bombings in Egypt, anything that happens around the world in Australia against Christianity, I was always standing up for Christianity. Then last year, I thought to myself, I've got to do something more than just the charity stuff. I'm still doing it, the charity stuff and posting on Instagram. That's great. But I thought, I want to educate people about the faith. I want to bring young people to the faith. I want to make the faith interesting. So I started this podcast. I started interviewing Evander Holyfield, the boxer that fought Mike Tyson, Andrew Bogut, Danny Abdullah, the monks from Lebanon. I've done so many where people go, wow, I'm seeing a different side of Christianity. You know, because I know growing up, I thought Christianity was boring. I even thought Maronite, I went to a Maronite church and it was Arabic and I didn't understand a word. I was like, what am I doing here? So I didn't understand it. So I wanted to build a connection with my podcast to touch people about Christianity, but not just Christianity, about standing up for truth. You know, you are a man who stands up for Lebanon. You show the Lebanese all around the world their roots. You stand up for the truth of Lebanon, the history of Lebanon, the food in Lebanon. You've put Lebanon on the map. I've seen some of your videos in Italian restaurants in Sydney, and I saw one on the way here. Matteo, you were doing pizza with the Italian guy. So, but you're giving these non-Lebanese a vision of Lebanon that's wow. And I'm giving an audience that are maybe lukewarm Christians or Christian by name, hey, Christianity isn't boring. Christianity is interesting. Oh, there's celebrities that are Christian. There's people out there doing Christianity is a good thing. And even people non-Christian are watching going, wow, Charlie, it's great what you're doing because you're standing up for the truth. And that's why I did this podcast. And hopefully we can continue going.
Beautiful.
You got a podcast as well?
I do have a podcast, different format.
Okay.
My podcast would go around searching for success stories around the world.
Okay.
It starts with the Lebanese and can end up with anything else. And it's a 45-minute to 1 hour format where people learn something new. It can be reconnecting with the roots. It can be the story of someone who left. It can be of a business owner. It can be of a businessman or whatever. And I usually go with my cameras to the person I'm on an interview and say, you know what? Sit, let's have a talk. So yesterday we had a discussion about the connection between the Roman Empire and the Phoenicians.
Okay.
With Dr. Shane, which is going to be published a couple of days, and ongoing. So now, why Lebanon? I've met people. One guy who's 93 years old, born in the States, and woke up one day in his midlife and remembered to go search for his origins. So he told me all his story. I've done another podcast with Abu Salim, the famous Abu Salim of our childhood, and we didn't even talk about him and his success jokes or videos, but about life in general. Why WhatsApp? How did it come into his life? Technology, his wife, love, connections, lessons, etc.
So people can get to know these well-known people, but
Exactly.
see his side they've never seen.
Exactly. It's just simple, casual content where, in my opinion, at the end of an hour, what I need to reach is, what did I learn? Was it interesting? Did I know the person and behind the person and who's behind the person? And how can we learn from each other? And this is very important. So all my YouTube channel is definitely about Lebanon, as you said, and connecting with our roots. But what did we learn from each other? What did you learn from a Lebanese in Lebanon? What did a Lebanese in Lebanon learn from you? What did Lebanese in Lebanon, probably 4 million today, are learning from the 16 million around the world? And how are the 16 million around the world seeing or looking or learning from the Lebanese still in Lebanon? So how did we evolve differently here, there? Why are we famous people, I would say, known, intelligent? What did make us 20 million and not all living in the same country? Why did we expand? Where did we go? And I'm trying to connect and reconnect and searching for the roots to one day reach the ultimate knowledge of what I'm trying to learn along the way. What is, in my opinion, a Lebanese DNA? So I have imagined something called the Lebanese DNA. What makes a Lebanese, good and bad.
Okay.
Lots of good things, lots of bad things. I can put them in a chart and tell you how intelligent, but we do not know how to work with each other. Why do we flourish outside of Lebanon and never knew how to build up our country? What did we do in countries? Why are we good builders? Why are we good businessmen? We're not good fighters. We didn't conquer. We did business from definitions. We did not have empires, but we were good sellers. We created the alphabet, boats. I can continue on and on.
Course, yeah.
And taking that history for the last 7,000 years, all the way to 2024 and to 2024, and how is this history rewriting itself in a different way with all the modernism we're living in? And every trip I do gets me closer to learning more, understanding more. And this is why I ask you, what did you feel when you landed in Lebanon? It's part of the Lebanese DNA. Not born here. Definitely you ate kibbeh and hummus at home and went to church. But you would love to visit the States or Europe or become an international man. And definitely when you meet an Australian, they would not even know where you're from.
Yeah, that's right.
And the minute that plane lands in Lebanon, there is something inside that shivers and says, okay, now I feel I'm home. Now those people around me connect with me. They look like me. I feel I like chaos, even though you were never born in chaos. And that chaos in Lebanon gives me energy, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's part of the Lebanese DNA.
And you know what you said about when you land in Lebanon, you notice every time you land in Lebanon, everybody claps. It's the only place in the world, the airlines, every time I go, it lands in Beirut, it claps.
Yeah.
Everyone claps. Everyone has that connection. But the thing is, what you were saying, like you've traveled the world, right? You've seen Lebanese communities in Sydney, in America, all around the world. I do notice that there's a lot of Lebanese, for example, in South America who don't know their roots. Do you come across many of those or no?
Definitely. I've met lots of people who have changed their family names, who do not know who they are. I've met several families who tell me, I'm from Lebanon. My father never told me which village I am from. I don't have any connection with the village anymore. We have homes, houses, buildings, castles, old houses that are left alone in Lebanon, and you look at them and you ask, okay, I love this house, let us rebuild it. They tell you there are 100 inhabitants. We do not know where they are. And they do not even know they inherited anything anyway.
Wow.
So yes, Lebanese are all across. Probably the first one who left Lebanon is around officially the large numbers of people left during the Ottoman years. The first one who landed in Australia would be around 1860.
That's right.
Probably before, but they didn't have a Lebanese passport. They had the Ottoman passport.
Okay.
So probably if we go and search for the Ottoman Empire or the Ottoman people who came to Australia, might be in the 1700s. We don't know. So officially, let's say 1860, but those went to Brazil before and to Mexico before. So imagine third generation in the making. They have adapted. They have given the country their food. El Pastor is Lebanese, right?
Yes.
Sfiha in Brazil is part of the international culture. So when you say Sfiha, it's part of the national food, the national culture of Brazil. So those have been implemented along the years. And this guy, third generation, today Brazilian, his name is, I don't know, Antonio or whatever. His family name is not even his original family name, but the name of his father in the Spanish language or Portuguese language.
Okay.
So all of those I'm trying to search for, if I can find them.
Yeah.
But we learn from them, and we try as much as we can. I personally try and try to keep that word going. Do not let your second generation forget who they are. At least if they only speak English, at least let them eat our food. If you decide to teach them Arabic, let them at least know which village they are from. So what we're scared of, and hopefully would not happen, is that third or second or third generation would not live in the Australian culture and would say, okay, I'm good here, I'm happy here, I got married to an Australian wife or whoever, or vice versa,
and don't know their roots.
Then I would forget who I am.
Yeah. Actually, my grandfather Hamel was born in Brazil, so they would have left 80 years ago, Lebanon. And I actually came across once a lady when I was doing sales, a Filipino lady. She was born in, I think her father was born in 1880. And she goes, are you Lebanese? I said, yeah, my parents are Lebanese. She goes, me too. And she's like full Filipino. I said, what are you talking about? She said, you don't believe me. I want to show you my father's passport. She pulled out her father's passport. He was born in, didn't say Lebanon, it said Mount Lebanon, Greater Syria. Mm-hmm. And she was born in Argentina. So she was Filipino, born in Argentina, but her father was Lebanese.
Wow.
So all she knew was that passport, but she didn't know anything else. She couldn't speak it. So like you're saying, it's very important, I think, for people to know their roots. And me being from Lebanon, my family's from Sibel, I didn't know until I got to Lebanon that there's probably about 3,000 people from Sibel in Australia. Mm-hmm. In Brazil, they say there's about 12,000. And surprisingly, in South Africa, there's up to 40,000 from Sibel alone. Mm-hmm. There's a famous boxer, the Tawil family. They were world champion boxers in South Africa in the 1950s and 60s. They're from Sibel. But if you speak to any South African, everybody knows them as South Africans. Mm-hmm. But they've got the Lebanese roots. So it's very, very powerful to know this. And it's great what you're doing, because I think you're going to be touching these audience maybe through the food reviews.
I always said when I started in 2014, I started a hashtag called لقمتنا بتجمعنا. Okay. Our food unites us.
Yes.
So hummus unites us, labna unites us, kibbeh unites us, tabbouleh unites us. And Lebanese cuisine is one of the most diverse in the world. We have more than 400 plates. 400. Not 5, not 10, not 100, 400. When you think of the Lebanese meza table, it can contain more than 200 plates on one table. And the least people know is that we do not eat the meza table or the festive food at home, right? So at home we have another 200, which we call in Lebanese yakhnet.
Okay.
رز فاصوليا ورز بازلا ورز etc etc. ورق عنب رز عجاج, right? And those particular dishes you do not eat at a restaurant. So what people know about Lebanese food is the Lebanese restaurant food. Hummus tabbouleh mtabbal.
Okay.
And then what you eat at home is way different.
The kouseh, the ghamme.
Exactly.
Okay.
So combining them all together is 400. And this can unite us. This can remind us of who we are. This gives us back of a touch of history of where did it start and how did it start. If you go to the States today, you would eat a hummus, you would eat labna, you would eat manouche. I said something on Instagram a couple of days ago. I said, when you forget who you are, just smell a manouche. When you forget who you are, just eat a za'atar. When you miss Lebanon, close your eyes and bite into a good manouche. You'll come back home. in a split of a second. So it's as simple as it is, but if we continue on doing that with our kids and our grandkids and ongoing, we just not forget who we are, reconnecting to Lebanon. So 20 million, 90% of them successful, millionaires and more, have made it all around the world, have lived an amazing life all around the world, are living a great life all around the world. We should not forget that little land that made us and who we are. And I'm not saying send money to Lebanon. Buy Lebanese products. Would an Italian restaurant buy tomatoes from Lebanon? No, they would buy Italian tomatoes.
That's right.
Why would a Lebanese restaurant buy tahini from Turkey? Tell me why. So if we start by buying Lebanese, you're supporting Lebanon.
Yes, 100%.
If you visit once in 10 years Lebanon, you're supporting Lebanon. If you talk positively about Lebanon, you're supporting Lebanon. If you lobby for Lebanon, you're supporting Lebanon. I'm not saying every time someone needs to support Lebanon means do a donation and send money to Lebanon. Fine, Lebanese will steal it. Whatever you want to, however you want to describe it. But why not buy a good Lebanese product? Good manouche za'atar from Lebanon. Why not go to a restaurant that is Lebanese? Why not work with a Lebanese? Or no, you prefer to work with an European. He looks better. So the mindset of who you are, what made you who you are, and how you still connected with what you are is very important for us to grow better. And it's very important. Imagine you're getting married, having 3 kids, 40 years in the making. You never took your kids to Lebanon, 40 years in the making. Your kid wakes up one day at 40 and says, Dad, who I am? Why didn't you ever take me to Lebanon? What would you answer? I was hiding who you are. I was hiding your identity. I didn't want you to identify as a Lebanese. And this is where family issues start. So just think of that. It's nice to be European, Australian, American, one part of that trendy new world, or the Eastern world, the Western world. But we're probably the oldest people in the world who created alphabet, who created law, who created lots of things. So being modern the way we act and are is very important, without forgetting who we truly are.
It's so true, and I agree with 1,000%. I'll get to that in a minute. But just to rewind a little bit, when I was a little kid, I was 5 years old in Australia. Me and my twin brother, we're going to school, okay? And my mum's lifting the Lebanese za'atar sandwich. And we're embarrassed because at school, people were pointing at us going, he's eating bird food. And we're like, so what we'll do, we used to throw away the sandwich. Then one day, I go home and my mum's puts a sandwich in my bag. And I went to throw it in the bin at the school. And an Italian kid says, what's that? I said, oh, it's nothing. He goes, no, let me taste it. He tasted it. He fell in love with the za'atar sandwich. He ended up, back in those days, $1 was like $100. He started paying $1.50 for a sandwich. So I'd go home, Mom, can you make me 2? She was making 2-3 sandwiches. I started wheeling and dealing, selling manouche za'atar sandwiches at school. And now, fast forward to now, a manouche is the in thing in Australia. Everybody wants to go eat Lebanese food. Everybody's proud. And this is something that we lacked when we were young. We were embarrassed to be Lebanese. And as I grew and went back to Lebanon, now I'm proud to be Lebanese. And this is what you're doing. And to fast forward to what I was saying, I remember during the COVID lockdowns, I was in Lebanon. There was nobody could travel the world. I got an exemption. I went to Lebanon to help the baby blast victims. And I was in Lebanon, and I remember watching your stuff. And I was thinking, wow, that's where I started realizing that you started to put Lebanon on the map. Because I know for a fact, when I was in Lebanon, Charlie, can you light me a candle at Marsharbil? Nobody could go to Anaya. Nobody could go to Harissa. Nobody could go to Lebanon. So they were sending me prayer requests, and I'm driving up to Anaya, no one there, lighting candles. And then people started, I know for a fact, I started watching, a lot of people in Australia started watching you because you were showing Lebanon where nobody could touch Lebanon anymore. And they started thirsting for it. Was that a big turning point for your YouTube or your posts? Because I started seeing a lot then.
COVID played a big role. The Thawra,
yes, that's
2019 right. played a big role. But to tell you the truth, when I started in 2014, I started on a very clear mission. 2014. My first post on Instagram was in 2012, when Instagram started, and I started my blog. And then 2012, my blog, 13, 14, I started my first YouTube video. And it was never a food blog. It was a mission. The mission of Lebanon, the mission of promoting Lebanon, the mission of showing Lebanon to the world, the mission of speaking my language, Lebanese, with the world. My mission to show Lebanon to the world and the Lebanese diaspora in the best way possible. 2014.
Wow.
It was not I want to be famous. It was not I want to have a food blog. It was not I want to pretend to be the best eater or taster or whatever you want, or however people perceive me, and I'm happy. Every single person perceives me in a different way. It was Lebanon. 10 years in the making. 2024. The mission is still the same. The world has changed. TikTok has been created. Every single person having a phone considers himself an influencer and blogger and food creator. I didn't change. It's still Lebanon. Differently. It's Lebanon after the blast. It's Lebanon with help. It's Lebanon with support. It's Lebanon and the Lebanese diaspora around the world. It's Lebanese around the world. And yet we still film the villages in Lebanon. I wanted to start in 2014 being the social media of people who do not have social media. The social media of فرن مناقيش. The social media of Mfadi تبع الساج. The social media of the bakery. The social media of the butcher.
You want to give them exposure that they never had.
And 2024, 10 years in the making, it's still the same and ongoing. Differently, with an evolution, with more maturity, with better content, with more interviews, with longer formats, with better editing, and so on and so forth. And yet it's still to come, it's still to continue. So we will meet again in 2034. And I'm going to tell you, 20 years, it was a mission, and it's still ongoing a mission. It's a mission of faith. It's a mission of food. It's a mission of culture. It's a mission of history. It's a mission of preservation. So I believe people who are connecting to me are connecting to that. The 12-year-old connects to me differently. The 30 years old connects to me differently. The 75 years old connects with me differently. The mid-age connects with me, with his parents and his family. So it's that video for the whole family. The Lebanese/Arab, and some are not even Lebanese, that connect probably to my smile, to my food, to my truthfulness and love of my heritage, and supporting my mission, and very proud of who I am. Despite all the problems happening, I'm still...
And that's one thing that I love about you, is that talking about Lebanese, you've got the politics. There's no politics when it comes to your posts. Everybody from any political group or anybody from any faith follows your stuff, and you unite everybody from different demographics, different race, different religion, all together on the one table, and everyone's united. And that's the beauty of it. That's right.
So hummus in the middle.
Amen. Yeah. And you know what? Like my wife and I, when we were in Lebanon during after the blast, and there was lockdowns, and we started a similar thing with clothing. We started making T-shirts in Lebanon, bracelets with Saint Shabo in Lebanon, mosaics. We started selling items, not to make money, but to support the local businesses in Lebanon and sell those products to people around the world. Because I thought to myself, and I was in Lebanon going, okay, we can get these shirts made cheaper in China, but why not get them made in Lebanon? Having a Lebanese warehouse, Lebanese workers making these shirts and selling them to Australians. And we started the shirts and the bracelets and the mosaics, and it's been wonderful. And there, it's different to what you're doing, but same at the same time. You're supporting Lebanese businesses, you're supporting Lebanese people. Now, with what you're doing, is there a website that we can put up where people can go to these places where you're supporting local businesses in Lebanon?
I tried. My first enemy and my only enemy is time, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I would love to have a website where I can put them all together, but I don't have time for it. I usually put the video, work on the edit. There's a video being published every night at 9 p.m.
Okay.
So imagine I travel around 250 days a year lately, connecting with the Lebanese around the world. And there is a video that is published about my travels every single night at 9 p.m. So I have to film, I have to edit, I have to get the music, and so on and so forth. So inside the video, on the description, you would see the Instagram account of every person I have visited, and the Google Maps link of my tour of a certain period. So there is an Instagram, Google Maps link of the 2024 Australia tour. There's another one for London 2023. There is one for America, etc., etc. So today it's the video and the description below it. Definitely the aim is having an application. Definitely the aim is doing a tour of Lebanon. There are lots of dreams and plans I would love to have. Today, my first enemy and only enemy is time. I'm putting all my effort in filming more, connecting more, running against the clock to find all these people alive and still alive probably before they get older or leave us. Businesses before they close, lots of things, generations before they forget their roots. And whenever I would have time, I would sit down, or probably one day when I have a sponsor for that, I would sit down and reorganize all the content we have to make it more reachable to people.
Okay. Couple of questions. What's your favorite part of Lebanon? Do you have a favorite place?
I enjoy the villages.
Okay.
I enjoy North Lebanon. I love the cedar trees, Niha, the mountains of Batroun, which are not known enough, the mountains of Jbel, which are not known enough. I really enjoy Weda and Nubin, going again and again and walking it again. I enjoy Arz Bsharri and this part of Lebanon. So my heart goes to the north. People think I am from the north.
Yeah.
I'm from Beirut. But I enjoy this part. Definitely it's summer, it's winter, it's greenery, roads, welcoming, different slangs and languages, generosity. During all my childhood days, during the war, we spent all our days in Kisirwen, in Faytroun.
Okay.
I connected with the region over there, the rocks of Kisirwen.
That's beautiful there.
Faraya, the ski resorts, Mzar, etc., etc. All of Lebanon is amazing. And I do not want to look at one part and say, okay, this is my favorite, I'm filming it more. No, all of Lebanon has its charm. When you go to the Shuf, you would see a different side of Lebanon, different kind of trees.
Beautiful mountains in the Shuf. Yeah,
beautiful. So each part has its charm in a different day, in a different season, with different people and different things to eat and enjoy. So when you say Lebanon, nobody can say, I love Lebanese food. Wait, which part of Lebanon you like? Kibbeh of the Shmel or Kibbeh of the Jnoub? Kibbeh Mazi or Kibbeh... Exactly. Goat kibbeh or lamb kibbeh. Okay, you like frake, you like kamoune, but kamoune is not available in the north. What is kamoune? Only for the south. How do you like your manouche? Manouche saj, manouche normal dough, manouche tannour.
Tannour, I like albek on the tannour.
Exactly.
But you don't see that manouche in other parts of Lebanon?
Less.
Very, very, very
so
rare.
It's known in Akkar and Baalbek.
It's very rare. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful because, like you said, you've got this small country and people speak a different dialect from village to village, and then their food is made differently. But then there's also the debate of, for example, shawarma. Is it from Turkey? Is it Greek? Is it Lebanese? Do you get into these historical debates? Or?
I have my own belief of the Lebanese food and who we are. We have been visited by more than 56 civilizations. Mm-hmm. We learned a lot from them. We have taken from them a lot, and we have probably given them. In the last, not the last, but during a period of 400 years, we were being occupied by the Ottomans, which we learned from, and they took from us as well. So who created baklava? Probably us in Tripoli. They claim it to Istanbul. Mm-hmm. Give me a proof. So during 400 years, shawarma, is it ours or theirs? Give me a proof. So there is no proof that says we have taken anything from the Ottomans.
Okay.
Because they were occupying us. Have they taken from us a lot? Have we taken from them? Definitely a lot. And we have built up a certain culture that is very unique to ours, which has great food, great flavors, great balanced food. And then we cannot forget all the other occupations we had, which we learned from. We learned from the French. We learned from the English. We learned from the Romans. We learned from a lot. So when you go today to Lebanon, especially on the Mediterranean, you would feel a touch of Italy. You would feel a touch of French. You will feel that finesse in the food. You will feel that Arabic touch as well. We have taken fool from Egyptians, and we have turned it into probably a classier touch our way. We probably didn't invent falafel, but we have our own way of doing it. So Lebanese bread in Lebanon is thin, very soft, smells good, etc. Did we invent it? Probably yes, probably not. So when it comes to food, especially during a 400 years occupation, many stopped speaking Arabic, or we were obliged not to speak Lebanese. So the languages have changed to others, and many languages have been created along the villages to try to avoid being understood by the occupant. And nothing was written back then. So you didn't have time to write your history. You were just escaping and living. And this is why we're the Anubin. So they were struggling to survive, not struggling to write the history in a very simple way. So taking a step back at 400 years and today, not one single time I said yes or no or confirmation. It was 400 years of struggling to survive. And then the last couple of years, or at the end of 1914, we woke up and said, now it's time to write our history. Who would remember it? The last one alive, which is only 50 years or 60 years or 70 years. And he remembers the last generation. What did his grandfather do? We do not know. So who invented food? We don't know. And nobody can claim they did. But I can confirm that Lebanese have taken it to the next level and have making it classier, softer, well-presented, balanced. And this is why, and I can debate on that, Lebanese food is the greatest and most 100%. Diverse and tastiest in the world among all cuisines.
100%. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. It's amazing.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy I got to know you more today on this podcast of yours. I hope we're going to meet again on my next trips when you'll have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers, connecting with them and showing them how the importance of faith. It can be any faith of it. Let us be clear. I don't know if we share the same objective. You can be Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, or whatever. It's important to have a faith, and then discovering yourself, if you would enjoy or like or understand or believe in Christianity more than others, Islam more than others, and so on. So what I think it's very important to have a simple faith that connects you with what you believe in. I chose and I believe in being Christian and I connect to it. Others probably connect to something else. And having a podcast about showing faith in general and Christianity in specific is very important. Connecting to all religions combined and connecting to all people combined, for us in this world that is struggling to survive in the last couple of years and last decade, in this world that is not doing well, that is definitely sick. The world is really sick at the moment. The only thing that would make us rebuild it and live better is connecting to ourselves again and saying, faith, believe,
100%.
We can build the future.
And that's why the podcast Stand for Truth. I've got so many people from non-Christians who are watching and sending me messages and supporting, because they're saying, Charlie, you're just standing for the truth. What you believe is the truth, and you're standing up for it, and you're showing a different side, just like you are showing Lebanon to all, no matter what religion, no matter if they're Lebanese or not. Everybody who watches your YouTube knows that, hey, this guy's passionate about Lebanon, about the love and affection throughout the villages and throughout the food, and you're connecting people through the food that you started 10 years ago. And I'm sure you didn't think that you're going to have close to 2 million subscribers on YouTube 10 years ago. You know,
I didn't, honestly. I am on television in Lebanon with a huge reach, probably millions and millions. I got other shows on Iraqi television with lots of other reach as well, and then YouTube with 300,000 views a day on my
That's
channel.
Amazing.
Connecting as much as we can, connecting us with each other and connecting us with people who think of us differently. The world, 90%, 95% of the world looks at Lebanon as a small land with war, a small land from the third world. I want to show the world that Lebanon has a different view, different shape, different side, and all my 7,900 videos to date today show Lebanon and Lebanese from a different perspective, for the world to know the truth, not only what the international news says about us.
And that's what we need to, especially with the news these days. They show the bad side of Lebanon and around the world, and what you're doing is showing the beauty of Lebanon, and it's captured a lot of people, and God bless you for what you're doing.